think we found another. Get ready.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Gatsby from Gatskin. How's your life going so far? We're getting pretty late into autumn now. Most of the leaves have fallen on the ground. If it's cold enough already where you are, now's the time to bundle up with a warm drink. It's always this time of year I am reminded of one of my longest lasting hyperfixations, that being the classic French fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. What originally started off as an intense fascination with Disney's 1991 animated feature slowly morphed into an appreciation for all the various types of adaptations of the fairy tale. From all the weird direct-to-video adaptations to the well-meaning but a bit dated young adult novels. Some adaptations would go on to be some of my favorite takes on the fairy tale, such as Megan Kearney's Beauty and the Beast webcomic. If you take anything from this video, that is go read this webcomic. It is fully completed, such a fantastic read, chef's kiss. In fact, I have gotten so cultured with it, I've actually gone and read the original unabridged version of Beauty and the Beast by Madame de Villeneuve. Well, translated into English, sorry ancestors, the ability to speak French did not pass down to me. And it is interesting, for lack of a better term. You know, the first good chunk of the book, it is the main plot of Beauty and the Beast, but the rest of it is just an explanation on how Beauty is not the daughter of a poor merchant. Turns out she is of royal fairy blood and is cousins with the prince/beast, which makes them able to get married to each other because Lord forbid a poor person marry a rich person. I mean, what's next? Cats and dogs living together in harmony? Hey, by the way, if you end up liking this video, subscribe, like, comment. Every little bit helps, like getting my little furry friends yummy treats. I have a goal to maybe make it as close to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So thank you so much. On to the rest of the video. It was because of my obsession with Beauty and the Beast as a child that when I was about 9 years old, I asked myself a question. What if Beauty fell in love with the Beast first? This seems pretty simple when you first think about it, but then you come to realize that it basically flips the whole entire dynamic of Beauty and the Beast on its head. Traditionally, Beauty is supposed to be scared and even angry at the Beast before slowly becoming more comfortable with him and then eventually realizing her love for him right when it's almost too late. Beast, on the other hand, since his curse is only broken by either love or marriage, depending on which version you're reading, he's supposed to be searching for someone to break that curse, trying to get that curse broken. If there's someone into him that he is either oblivious to or not wanting to acknowledge the feelings of towards him, what does that say about the Beast? Is Beauty just like a furry or something and he's not into that? I mean, there's plenty of possibilities there. Really makes you think. But when I was a child, this is the answer to that question that I came up with.
A daughter, you say? And named Beauty?
I'm old!
So I have no art or really any documentation of this creative period in my life. So what I am telling you here is solely based off of memories. It was Belle and the Beast from the Disney animated film, because of course it was. They have a grandson who I don't remember the name of, so we're just going to call him Beast Jr. the Third, or just Beast Jr. for short. Well, he somehow gets the Beast curse. I guess his grandparents just leave him to his own devices because he lives in the castle by himself, because I also don't remember making any servants for him to live with. The village nearby, they have not learned the sins of their forefathers because they don't know that he lives there. I guess they don't remember the big scary castle in the woods where the royal family lives. They get turned into animals. So it's pretty understandable why Beast Jr. would want his curse to be broken. He's pretty desperate. He just wants to find a lady love, someone like his grandma, someone who's smart and independent. He fails miserably at this until one day a lady shows up, and she has red hair and red eyes, and she wears a red dress, and you'll never guess what her name is. Her name is Scarlet. I was a very creative child. But here's the thing about Scarlet, is that she's really annoying to Beast Jr. Well, when I wrote her as a kid, she was like awesome and cool and funny and quirky and not like the other girls. But she has this bit with the Beast where she would like tease him and he would be a grouch about it. One bit that I remember is that she would always refer to Beast Jr. as like Bigfoot. I think that's because I was watching a lot of like Monster Hunter on History Channel at the time. But that's not even the best part, okay? Because at the climax of the story, the villagers, still not having learned their lesson, they're marching up through the woods, coming to storm the castle, and Beast and Scarlet are like, oh no, what are we gonna do? The Beast doesn't want to like hurt anybody. But get this, this is when Scarlet reveals that she's not even human. She was a dragon, using magic to make herself look human because everybody's scared of dragons, and she just wanted to fit in, but she still couldn't fit in because she was just too awesome and cool, I guess. So she hears about, Beast living in this castle, and she's like, oh, I'll go be friends with you. But she never tells Beast that she's a dragon until now, because she was scared he would be scared of her being a dragon. So, Scarlet is like, I'm doing this because I love you. Run away, Beast Jr. I'll fend them off. And she flaps her little dragon wings and go, and she's able to fight them off, but they beat her up within an inch of her life. So then Beast Jr., he runs through like the snowy field and he's like cradling Scarlet's dragony head. He's like, oh my gosh, Scarlet, I love you too. And then of course this breaks the curse, saves Scarlet's life, and the two of them live happily ever after. I was 9, okay? I had just read Dragonology, and I think I just wanted Beauty and the Beast, but with the dragon. A manic dragon dream girl. Probably was a little bit of a self-insert in some ways. But there were more issues with the quote-unquote Mary Sue-ness of the female lead. There was just a lot of stuff from a story perspective I didn't even think about because I just wanted to focus on the dynamic between Scarlet and Beast Jr. But that wasn't even good because all it was Scarlet would annoy Beast Jr. and then Beast Jr. would be grumpy about it. I don't think the two had a real connection till I decided they would in the climax of the story. Despite all these rough edges, however, something about this idea I couldn't get out of my head. So, starting in high school, I would come back to this premise over and over again through the years, trying to make it something that I liked. And I never got there because, I will be honest here, I always have this nagging voice in the back of my head that when I make something and share it online, someone will see it, get really angry about it, and write a call-out post for me, okay? I don't know why my mind does this to me, and I don't know why Beauty and the Beast specifically really triggers that fear, okay? And I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of holding myself back on making the things that I want to see in the world because I worry about some imaginary Joe Smo. I am a blip in the vast sea of internet artists, okay? If someone out there on Book Talk can make a Beauty and the Beast retelling where the Beast is some alpha male mafia boss guy who isn't even a beast, he's just some guy, then I can make my own lesbian Beauty and the Beast slop that is a partial deconstruction of the fairy tale that takes inspirations from Revolutionary Girl Utena and Shrek. I can make my own toys and play with them in my own little corner, and nobody can stop me. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in this video. Yay! let me give you some more information on this setting for this here tale. Does anyone remember that period in the 2000s where there was a fair amount of media that mixed medieval fairy tale aesthetics with 2000s stuff? Obviously, Shrek was the forerunner of this, but then you also have movies like Ella Enchanted that have that similar setting. That's the vibe I want to have for this story. So, in the kingdom of Camelot, it has been many, many years since the current king, Arthur, usurped the throne from his tyrant of a father, Uther. King Arthur stays at his big fancy castle with his Knights of the Round Table, but in the countryside of the kingdom, there lies the abandoned vacation summer castle of the royal family, not too far from the shores of Lake Nimue. Or at least, that's how it was. It seems that it has taken up a peculiar residence as of late, that being the beast of this story, Grendel, who has dubbed himself first ever of the House of Grendel. And you might be thinking, whoa, wait. What's Grendel doing in Camelot? Isn't he supposed to be like way up north? And you'd be right if we were talking about the previous Grendels, but not this one. You see, there is always a Grendel. Grendel always terrorizes the mead halls of the lands up north till a brave warrior comes and tears off his arm or something. But not this time. This Grendel has dreams. He refuses to be an Earthrim walker like his kinfolk before him, and much to the dismay of his mother, he leaves their cold, wet cave to live in Camelot, where he wants to fulfill his dreams of joining King Arthur's court and becoming part of the refined high society of Camelot. Grendel doesn't want to die a beast. He wants to live happily ever after. Grendel as a character is naive, stubborn, has both too high and too low of a self-esteem. He often finds himself stuck, thinking in his own little world, contemplating the nature of the universe and all of that. And these are all negative traits, but there's positives in them too. His naivety helps Grendel stay positive in a world that fears him. His stubborn nature in combination to his thoughtfulness pushes him to learn things, even if he has trouble, fully understanding certain topics like the delicate intricacies of court etiquette and the social cues that come along with it. It's something he can work on, and he likes goals. He likes putting things in schedules and getting better at things and learning. Another way I could describe Grendel as someone who is very emotional, but still tries to run on logic. And to be honest, if he were alive today, he would either own or frequent a comic book or video game store. He's a nerd, he's a geek, probably would have been a theater kid if he was given the opportunity. So, Grendel has taken up residence in the summer castle, as I like to call it for now. I like to think instead of him living there by himself, there's like a little family of brownies. I guess technically they'd be Bubah. I think that's how you say it. I digress. There's this little family of house fairies, and they keep the castle clean and functional because they live there and they want a nice clean castle. And at first they are very resistant to the idea of having a quote-unquote master of the house, especially for someone like Grendel, who just on name alone is pretty infamous even this far from home. I like to think through many hours of negotiations, they come to an agreement that yeah, sure, Grendel, you can be the quote-unquote master of this castle, but when you die, we get your body. It's like when a whale dies at the bottom of the ocean and then all the animals eat the whale. Something like that. A little macabre, but fairy tales often are. With someone now more obviously living in the castle, the nearby villagers send 2 to 3 guys to go investigate what's going on, and it goes terribly. Grendel does not purposefully scare them, but he still ends up doing so by being at least 10 to 8 feet tall and being this boar, bear, hedgehog thing. I can imagine Grendel kind of oblivious to these villagers just shaking in fear of him, just going on the soliloquy on what type of royal title he should have. Well, do you think I should be the Baron? A Count? Maybe I could start off as a Marquise. might be a bit too much. What do you all think? Obviously, the villagers are going to run away from this whole entire scenario, and then when they get back to the village, they over-exaggerate the interaction, making Grendel out to be way more dangerous than he actually is, right? So in a series of events, this information gets sent to King Arthur's court, and Grendel ends up on Camelot's most wanted list. Grendel is heartbroken at this information. He probably finds out about it through like one of the brownies picking up like Camelot's gossip tabloid magazine. He likes to read those to keep up with high society. So to clear his head from this information, he ends up taking a walk along the shores of Lake Nimue, and he sits down and watches the waves ebb and flow, and he just feels so incredibly lonely, just wrong and gross and terrible about who he is in ways that he can't even explain to himself. Just an absolute pit of despair. And then he sees something small kind of form underneath the waves, and it gets closer to where he's at, and he can't quite make it out at first, but then eventually he's able to see what it is. It's a human hand. No, it's not a drowned body. It's the Lady of the Lake. The Lady of the Lake? She is this otherworldly fairy who guards a sword that is within the lake. Caliburn, okay? And Caliburn is not just any sword, okay? It's a magic sword that can grant you any wish. Well, you only get one wish, and then it goes back into the lake for another couple hundred years before it's recharged and usable again. And Grendel is like, wait. If you have the sword, I want the sword. Give me the sword. I want to wish to be human. And the Lady of the Lake is like, Grendel, you should know how magic works. It's transactional. To get Caliburn, you have to show the Lady of the Lake a true emotion, a true feeling, like pure rage, true sorrow, true love. And Grendel, his ears perk up at that last one. True love, you say? So he tells the Lady of the Lake, so what you're saying is a couple who love each other super, ultra very much, they can come to the lake shore here, and you will give them a sword and they can make a wish. And the Lady of the Lake kind of has an idea, kind of knows what Grendel is insinuating here, and she admires what he's planning, so she tells him this. The only reason why she came up to the shore to begin with is because she thought Grendel was someone else. There is a prophecy, a fate, that someday soon, someone is going to get that sword. And outside from that, she can't say much because she's under NDA. But at most, she estimates Grendel has like a year and a half to somehow get the sword before this specific point in time. So Grendel, upon hearing this, invigorated with a new goal, hops up from sitting and then runs back to the castle, a plan forming in his mind. He doesn't know how yet, but he is going to find true love with a beautiful woman, bonus points if she's also like royalty or something, and then the two of them are going to get the sword and wish for Grendel to be human, and they're going to live happily ever after. Of course, now that he is on Camelot's most wanted list, that complicates things very much. He is wanted both dead or alive. Not only does he have to worry about the knights from King Arthur's court coming to get him, you also have knights from other lesser royal houses. You got to think about like the dukes and the other barons and whatnot. You have all the adventurer guilds. They also employ knights. And then there's also black knights, those who are illegally performing knight duties without being licensed to any, guild or royal court within Camelot. One final thing I want to mention about Grendel is just how sheltered he is. He came from a very sheltered background, and even now living at this summer castle, a lot of the outside world he gets through like gossip magazines. So he has a very limited view on how the world works. The world that he sees in like the magazines and stuff, it's a world of princes, of princesses, shining castles. It is a world that is very straight, very cisgendered. And it's because of this that Grendel's desires to assimilate, to be part of Camelot's high society, he denies parts of himself, avenues that would make him a whole lot happier in the long run, but because he is so dead set on doing it by the book, it takes him quite some time within the story to start exploring those parts of himself, or rather, herself. That's right, I'm not going to beat around the bush anymore. I told you this was going to be lesbian. Grendel is a trans woman. J-Sweet woke. J-Sweet pronouns. Big whoop-de-doodle. I told you earlier, this story is for me and me alone, okay? If I want to have queer characters, then I'm going to have queer characters. It is this aspect that I do worry about, just because, yeah, I have a lot of other trans characters for like other projects and stories and stuff, but most of them, when I think about them in the context of the story that they are in, they have already transitioned in some way or another. And I just really wanted to have a character who realizes she is trans and transitions within the story. And in Cassilda's case, that being the name she chooses for herself, even after transitioning, you know, she's still fairly butch in presentation. And I often think about how women don't have to be like paragons of traditional femininity. And I don't know, maybe it's just something I think a lot about with the rise of anti-feminism and the trad wives and I'm just a girl, I have girl dinner, I can't math, I don't know how to do anything but be girly and pink. Not that there's anything wrong with, you know, being a woman and wanting to be feminine and wear pink. I love pink. Pink is awesome. I just worry that, especially in this day and age of internet influencing reality, it can be such a slippery slope from just wanting that lifestyle for yourself versus contributing to the loss of that choice for others. Does that make sense? I got a little woke there. What I'm trying to say is, for the rest of this video, Cassilda will be referred to as Cassilda, using strictly she, her pronouns for her, though in the story in of itself, it would take her a fair amount of time to make that realization for herself.
Sir Mordred of Avalon!
But what is a beast without a beauty? Beauty, Belle, whatever name you want to call her. Just like the beast, she has had many variations in characterization throughout the years. Sometimes more of a paragon of virtue, other times a bit more flawed. Though it cannot be understated just how much of Disney's portrayal has affected current and probably future interpretations of the character. But just as I have deviated from the typical beast when it came to Cassilda's character, I hope it's not too much a surprise to hear that I have deviated from the typical beauty as well. With all sorts of knights coming in to try and take Cassilda in, either dead or alive, life at the castle has been a bit more intense, to say the least, as now, part of her daily schedule, Cassilda now has to take in account that at any moment, some knight will show up and try to fight her. Cassilda usually just hides till the knights go away, but on the rare occasion, I could just see her doing the good old classic strategy of picking the knight up and then gently throwing them away into like some bushes or something. It's a solid plan, until one day, multiple knights show up and they back her into a corner in the courtyard. And with her commitment towards pacifism, it seems like this is where Cassilda's hope for a fairy tale ending comes to an end. But from on top of one of the Lake Castle's towers, a figure is seen standing on the wall. It's another knight. This other knight jumps down to where everybody else is, and the other knights jump back because this isn't one of their comrades showing up a little late. Oh no. This is the most infamous of all the Black Knights out there. You know, those knights who are not licensed to be a knight. The mysterious Madraut. It seems like she's here to steal the job from everybody else, so to say, but plot twist. Madraut goes and beats up all the other knights, sends them packing, and Casilda, she's a little apprehensive. She doesn't know if she's next. She still reluctantly thanks Madraut, but Madraut turns to her and is like, I didn't do it for you. I live here. I don't want to have to look at those bozos. With Casilda's reaction being, what do you mean you live here? You can't live here. I live here. What Casilda doesn't know is that earlier that day, Madraut came by and made a bargain with the little Brownie family to also live at the castle. The deal that was made between the two parties and what other plans Madraut has is unknown to Casilda, and that just makes her mad. Madraut's presence really ruins her whole entire plan, and thus starts the incredible tale of, oh my god, they were roommates. I think it's pretty obvious with all the references to Arthurian legend I've stated so far that you might have a pretty good idea of what Madraut's deal could be, but before I further elaborate, let me state something real quick. Did you know that Arthurian legend has so many variations to it? For example, characters like Lancelot did not show up until the Middle Ages because a French guy wanted to put his OC in Arthurian legend and ship him with Guinevere. King Arthur can have like up to 5 different half-sisters depending on like which medieval tale you're reading, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I hope the crazy remix of Arthurian legend I've been doing so far hasn't hurt you too badly, because brace yourself, it's gonna get worse. Many years ago, King Arthur went out hunting in the woods by himself. He gets crazy lost, but comes across the most beautiful babe. Her name is Morgan. She's a little freakishly tall, but he's got a thing for redheads, so they hit it off. He eventually finds a way back, to his castle, but he keeps visiting Morgan in secret. Turns out, she's a dragon. She looks like a human because, dragons can shapeshift, And I guess in another life, Arthur would have been a bard because he still goes for it. And amongst his visits to his secret girlfriend, things happen. They have kids. Congratulations, it's twins. The thing is though, Arthur, he has this whole political marriage set up in Camelot to this chick named Guinevere to help secure his new rule as king. And Morgan and the 2 kids, they just don't fit into his vision for a future Camelot. He's pretty content with figuring out a way to distance himself from them all within the next soon, without it having any consequences to his political and social standing. One day though, as he's getting back from visiting Morgan and the kids, Merlin, his cool wizard mentor advisor of many years, shows up beside him and is like, Arthur, I know what you're doing. If you don't stop, you're going to end up just like your father, and your firstborn is literally going to kill you and destroy the whole kingdom of Camelot. Get your act together. Arthur does not take this well, and for many years he just cold turkey stops seeing Morgan and the kids because of his paranoia of the possibility of the cycle of patricide continuing. And it just eats away at him till one day he's like, I can't take it anymore, and he rides off in secret, sword in tow. And Merlin stops him one more time and he's like, Arthur, I know what you're gonna do, but if you do this, your fate will be sealed and you will never see me again. Arthur says, screw you, old man, and then he goes to where Morgan lives and he kills her and kills the oldest kid. Morgan's so heartbroken, she didn't fight back. She just tried her best to protect, the one kid that was there. Arthur doesn't know where the other one is. That doesn't really matter to him as long as he got rid of the firstborn. Whatever. He further justifies his actions because he's the good King Arthur, okay? He's just saving the kingdom of Camelot in advance. He leaves that day feeling real good about himself, just relief washes over him. What does Merlin know anyway? Well, Merlin knows a lot actually, because he actually didn't kill the kid that was there. She lived, barely. Merlin takes the young Madraut, and despite the absolute grief this child is going through, she just witnessed her mom get murdered. She almost died herself. She's now barred from seeing her younger sibling. Merlin still forces the child to learn many, many things, like academics, court manners, all the way to fight someone underneath the sun. And Madraut doesn't want any of this. Merlin is also telling her pretty much every day, like, hey, it's your destiny. You're going to kill your father. You're going to destroy the kingdom of Camelot. Everyone's going to hate you. And understandably, Madraut does not like this, and throughout her life tries many, many times to run away from Merlin's wizard castle tower, but always finds herself back there because she doesn't really fit in with human society. You see, unlike her younger sibling, unlike other people who are half dragon, half human, who can very easily kind of shift between those two forms, Madraut is stuck in a space between, and she really scares any human she comes across, right? And her mom's side of the family don't want anything to do with her either. This has nothing to do with the fact of her being half human, half dragon. Her younger sibling lives with them, fully accepted, still living with trauma, but life is awesome. No, the issue is that Madraut was born with white scales. So in Dragon Society, or at least the Dragon Society in Camelot, white is a very bad, very scary color. It's the color of death, destruction. Literally every dragon born with white scales goes on to be the harbinger of some terrible event. Usually some type of like evil warlord. Though it could be argued that being ostracized from society makes you do crazy things. Madraut eventually though, while going through Merlin's stuffs, Madraut though eventually discovers a very forbidden magic amongst Merlin's spellbooks. It's for a type of shape-shifting glamour magic that not even other magical beings can detect. It's really difficult, and Madraut's not the best at magic, but in secret she learns this spell, and once she's got it down, she leaves Merlin's for good. This spell though, it has its consequences. It basically puts her body in like a pendulum. If being human is one extreme, any time spent on that side, that one extreme, has to be spent on the other side of the extreme, so looking like a dragon, before she can go back to that default state. So for example, a day spent as a human, she eventually has to spend a day as a dragon. This spell is also very physically draining on her, but none of that matters as long as she can go find a place out there in the world where she doesn't have to follow some stupid destiny. I won't go too much further onto this, just know it goes very badly. Many other things happen in Madraut's life where she just ends up even more jaded. She still fights fate and the perceptions people put upon her, but she's no longer bothered with trying to prove herself as good like she did when she was younger. Because of this, she's very quiet and very angry. She keeps to herself. She puts up walls and keeps everyone at a distance because she knows eventually she's gonna get hurt. However, now that Madraut is also at the Lake Castle as a part of her super secret plan, don't worry about it, she finds herself intrigued by Casilda. Because Casilda is also an outsider, and she has also gone through some terrible, not good things, but she just tackles it in such a different way than Madraut has. And she doesn't want to admit it at first, but she's curious. She's intrigued by Casilda. And when she's not out and about doing, all the other secret stuff, don't worry about it, she has planned, she just finds herself often just hanging around Casilda, seeing what Casilda is up to. Casilda doesn't like this at first. She doesn't like Madrout potentially ruining her whole entire thing, but the two realize that they can talk about stuff pretty easily, and they often get into debates, well-meaning debates, like enriching conversations. One example I can think about this is that in a lot of retellings of Beauty and the Beast, there's always some scene where Beauty and the Beast, they're at a table, and Beauty is like, "Hey Beast, why do you never eat food with me?" And the Beast usually answers something like, "I am a beast. I kill my food. I raw dog that shit, Beauty. You don't want to see what that's like. I don't eat gracefully." And if a conversation like that went down between Casilda and Madrout, Madrout would probably respond something like, "So, something has to die for it to be eaten. Something at some point has to be killed. Why is it a big deal?" And then somehow that conversation turning into a debate on whether or not plants can feel pain. But yes, over time, Madrout comes to really enjoy Casilda's company. Casilda has such an awkward sincerity to her. It just brings a lot of peace to Madrout. She can't quite explain it. She knows that she's falling in love with Casilda, and she knows that Casilda is giving her faith in the world that maybe it's not as bad as she thought it was. Eventually becoming almost like a bodyguard to Casilda, being very protective of making sure no harm comes to her. Casilda, on the other hand, she starts off a little annoyed, a little jealous of Madrout first, doesn't know what her deal is, maybe is a little jealous on the perception of, because maybe she thinks that Madrout gets to live the life that she's always wanted to live. Cool fairy tale romantic adventures. Well, over time, Madrout becomes a trusted friend to Casilda, and eventually the number one person she goes to for romance advice. Like, "Geez, Madrout, you're a lesbian, right? How do I pick up girls as a girl? Please tell me. I please." And then just how awkward that would be on Madrout's end, because she's falling in love with someone who is asking "Hey, how do I ask this person out?" Come on, it's juicy. I love it. It's juicy. And honestly, the more I think about it, well, I'm not sure how familiar anyone watching this is with older tropes in Yuri. There's this one that's the Crimson Rose and the Candy Girl. I won't go too much into it, but the more I think about it, they're just Crimson Rose and Candy Girl, but not as tragic. There's a lot of other things I have planned for this story, a lot of things I would have loved to go into about why I have decided for certain things to be the way that they are, but if I talked about it, this video would go on forever. So for now, I will just say this. This Yuri is not tragic, it's not doomed, they get their happy ending. It's like Shrek, but they're lesbians. And this has been my funny little take on Beauty and the Beast. For the longest time in my head, I would refer to the story as Beast and Beast. I'm not so sure on that title now, but it's what I'll be going with till I can think of something better. Is this story more compelling than what I came up with as a 9-year-old? I don't know. It's definitely more complicated, and I can't even say for certain if I answered that question I asked myself as a child. What if Beauty fell in love with the Beast first? If that has been answered correctly. Because if you think about it, Madrout could just as easily be the Beast, with Casilda being the Beauty. But at the end of the day, I'm okay with that. A beautiful beast and a beastly beauty, and their fight against the fate that's been placed upon them. Is it corny and stupid? Yes. Am I having a good time? Absolutely. If what I have, cooked up here and my metaphorical kitchen has not satisfied you, then I humbly implore you to make something for yourself. Put some joy and whimsy into your life. I wish I had a better closing for this video, but that's literally it. The moral of the story today? Feel the rain on your skin. Release your inhibitions. God knows I try. The path to self-actualized creative freedom, it is a hard road that is never ending. Truly, a tale as old as time. This has been Gatsby from Gatskin, signing out.